Welcome to Fix My Deck, episode 16. Today we're going to be talking about a Maelstrom Wanderer deck. Maelstrom Wanderer is 8 mana, Teamer colors, is a 7/5, gives all your creatures haste, and then also has Cascade. Wanderer, kind of the original Cascade commander. And this player is taking Maelstrom Wanderer in a very unique direction. They're trying to do a Spellslinger, token control, mid-range sort of theme. Basically, they want to run a lot of Magecraft cards and cast a lot of instant sorceries and make a bunch of tokens and swing through for the win. And they said the biggest issue is they get mana screwed and they have a hard time stabilizing against more aggressive decks, confused if they need board wipes or not, and they want to avoid a lot of staples, especially artifacts and enchantments, and they want to just focus on Magecraft. So, yeah, a pretty complex and unique deck, but I think we can make some improvements to it.
Yeah, I really like the idea of using Maelstrom Wanderer as a Magecraft or kind of like Spellslinger style deck.
Yeah, I've really only ever seen it as like the more aggro strategy that I've made it. I've seen it as like a combo thing where you cascade into, it's like Jokel hops. So you destroy everything and then only you have Wanderer out.
There's also the how many times can you replay Maelstrom Wanderer? So that's like using Spelljack and
the
food
bounce
chain
thing,
and other.
the food chain combo. Yeah.
We can start with like freeing up a little bit of space. So I think
Well, maybe we need to talk about, like, I guess the overall plan for approaching this.
oh, good point.
So my first thought when I looked at this deck was it needs more ramp. Partially because it's missing the artifact ramp, but also because with Wanderer, you really want to ramp into Wanderer as hard as possible. I need to stop here and make a post-production comment and mention that we forgot or we missed the very first sentence of this person's submission in which they said that they don't want to ramp into Maelstrom Wanderer as hard as they possibly can. And we discussed this after the fact, and what we think is this deck is doing too many things for the available card pool to make that viable. We think as long as we reduce the control aspects and go harder into ramp, this deck is viable. But otherwise, there just aren't enough cards at this time that provide synergy between token generation and control, at least in these colors. Now, we think in a Jeskai color deck, this could be a lot more viable because we get all of the white cards that provide Magecraft token generation, plus we would get all of the asymmetric board wipes in white. That is really important typically in a control deck. But in a Maelstrom Wanderer deck, running green, really what green gives us more than anything in this deck is the ramp, and ramping as hard as we can into Maelstrom Wanderer also helps get us the value and card advantage that this deck otherwise struggles to generate. So the rest of the video will be a bit of a failure in terms of committing to this person's specific goal of not just ramping hard into Maelstrom Wanderer, but at least the deck we did make does most of what this person wants and also still seems pretty unique. And this player does already have much of the best instant sorcery ramp, but I think adding in even more ramp is going to help speed this deck up and help it stabilize against the more aggressive decks, because it's going to, get its own game plan online faster. Like, I don't think it needs to slow its opponents down. It can just speed itself up.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is deck where speeding itself up is better than trying to stabilize or play life gain or other mitigation.
We don't need a board wipe or anything in these colors. Just like try to do our own thing and do it faster than what other people are doing. The other thing about running more ramp too is that it allows us to focus more on a green mana base and then use the ramp to just get the color fix that we need, because one of this player's issues was color fixing. So the ramp is really going to help bring things together, I think. You had some Magecraft cards you wanted to add into the deck.
Yeah, I think the big one to add would be Veyron, which just doubles kind of all Magecraft triggers.
Well, Veyron, 3 mana. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, it gets +1/+1, and then it makes all your Magecraft stuff trigger twice. So doubling up on a lot of these effects, like, does it double up? Yeah, doubling up on things like Young Pyromancer, Third Monk, Talrand, Stormkiln.
All of them,
Most of
really.
what the deck's trying. Yeah, basically every card here that the deck is trying to abuse, it helps double up on.
I'd also add Octavia,
Octavia, Living Thesis.
which pairs really well with the token strategy because now you can turn your piddly 1/1 tokens into beefy 8/8s and just swing in.
Yeah, it's just so tricky with these things you can't cascade into because they always end up on the bottom of your library, it feels like. But yeah, that's okay. Well, we'll let it stand because it does have potential. Yeah, so some I want to add, I want to do Explore, which is draw a card and you can play an extra land. And then
What's the? Oh, it's like Explore. It's a
like
Simic card. A Growth
yeah.
Spiral.
Yeah, Growth Spiral.
Oh, and there's a bigger Growth Spiral that costs 4.
Do you mean the one?
Shit,
Oh, there's
what
the
is-
two of them that cost 5. There's the Ravnica one.
There's the Ravnica one, and then there's also the newer one that costs. The Ravnica one draws you 3 cards, and then there's the 4-cost one that draws you 2, and then you can play an extra land.
So Urban Evolution was what I was thinking of. Urban Evolution is 5 mana, draw 3. You can play an additional land. I want to add Tempt with Discovery. I like this card, and then
Eureka Moment is what I was thinking of.
yeah, that's a good one. And also, I want to do Escape to the Wilds. Now, Escape to the Wilds, I've talked about it on this channel before, and I used to underestimate this card, but I didn't realize for the longest time that you exile the top 5 cards of your library, and you can play an additional land this turn, but the top 5 cards you exile, you can play them until the end of your next turn. So a lot of these ramp are going to be really important because the more you have, the more you can curve into them. It's like with Cultivate, a turn 3 Cultivate means turn 4 you'll have 5 mana into like the Escape to the Wilds. Or for these 4 mana ones like Tempt with Discovery, the more 2 mana ramp you have, the more likely you are to curve into the 4 mana ramp.
I would also add in Flare of Cultivation, since we're on the Cultivate train.
Yeah, you may sacrifice a non-token green creature. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal its cards. Yeah, that's got potential.
Still just a Cultivate, so it's still good. I also want to add a few more lands into this deck.
It's got 40 including MDFC, but you're right. I would run with Maelstrom Wanderer. I would run more, and
especially with all the land tutoring that can only get basics, so it's really easy to draw out all your basics. So at least running like 1 to 2 more of each basic.
Yeah, and I'd probably focus on green just to make sure we have enough for us. There's 3 more lands. 43 I think is good. We'll have to play test it to try it out. But now we're at 113 cards, so we might have to...
Let's get some cuts in. So I think Artistic Refusal. So it's an instant.
Yeah, I think as we mentioned, this is probably in here because it's hard with Maelstrom Wanderer because, the way Cascade works, it's like you can cast spells that you cascade into, and then it makes it hard to run counter spells because you would end up just having nothing you want. You want a counter spell basically because only Maelstrom Wanderer is on the stack. So these modal counter spells
you just have to drop the counter spells.
No, yeah, but it's like these people like to run these modal counter spells because it gives them the option to play counter magic while still being able to cascade into it. But I think
you're just running worse cards.
Yeah, it's like other than things like Cryptic Command, I don't think they're worth running because I think we need to reduce the control element of this deck a little bit and just go harder into ramping into Wanderer and then rolling the Maelstrom Wanderer dice.
Yeah, I agree. I think the control element, is too weak. And it should really just be Spellslinger token value train with Maelstrom Wonder.
Yeah, I mean, it's still good to run Beast Within and Chaos Warp and stuff, but we don't. This
Maybe on
isn't
control
a
though.
deck that's setting itself up to otherwise sit on mana to counterspell stuff. You know.
Yeah. I would also get rid of Born Upon a Wind. I have trouble seeing when this would be particularly useful.
We don't need Born Upon a Wind.
I'd also get rid of Gitaxian Probe, which I really like in the Slinger strategy. It it's a free spell, but I just don't think free spells are really what the deck needs because it is. I think the game plan is instants and sorceries to ramp as hard as possible.
Well, yeah, it gets free spells from casting Wanderer, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
need. It doesn't need this, especially like if the player's already saying they're losing too much life, they don't need the life lost for casting it for free.
Yeah, I'd also drop Metamorphose for similar reasons. In that,
What
I
is
think
this?
Metamorphose, it's an instant,
That's
is
an instant.
uh, really potent in um, Spellslinger decks that are trying to kind of start kind of casting spells and comboing off a lot earlier in the game, like around turn 3 and 4. Whereas I think this is kind of a weird variation of Spellslinger, but it's much more focused on getting to the mid game, and that's when it'll be really potent when you have a Magecraft trigger like Archmage Emeritus and maybe one other Magecraft trigger, and then turn 5 or 6 you cast Maelstrom Wonder is what the deck wants to be doing.
Yeah, and this is basically another kind of free spell. It provides some color fixing for them too, but yeah, ultimately the free spells can just come from casting Wanderer.
I think Meeting of the Minds is.
I'd probably cut this Noxious Revival also.
Yeah, I like Noxious Revival for recursion, especially when the deck is running so many extra turn effects. So you could time warp and then
Yeah, I think it's going to be a
Noxious
disappointing
Revival.
thing to cascade into because if you're trying to ramp hard into Wanderer and then you cascade into this, it might be like all you can do is put ramp on top of your library. With
Yeah,
Wanderer, we really want to avoid like dead cards when we cascade.
yeah, I could see cutting this then. Oh, Quicken. Yeah, chopping Quicken.
I do like this one because it's one mana draw card, but yeah, we probably don't need it.
I'd also drop Meeting of the Minds. I think there are better ways to be drawing 2 cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense what they're going for. Like, oh, you have a bunch of tokens and you can convoke this and cast it for one. But again, we
Or
get a lot of
free
free
if
cards
you have
from. Oh yeah, right. Convoke can be free. So, yeah, I guess like Wanderer is the main free card engine, and then some of those ramp spells we added also give us card advantage, and they give us more than this thing does.
I'd also cut the Spelljack. I don't think this deck is really trying to do the Wanderer combo.
Yeah, let's come back to that one because it can be pretty useful and it's kind of fun. But yeah, you might be right about that. I think there's some other like I would get rid of this Twist Reality because
And the
this is
Ursa's
another
rebuff.
yeah Twist Reality. I really don't think we need to focus so hard on these control elements, especially like with 2 blue, and we can focus more on our own game plan.
Yeah, I think in terms of deck design, this deck seems much more trying to build its own engine, and it's less of, and it's trying to steamroll other people, and it's less about trying to really interact with others. That said, like it does run interaction, like Beast Within, Chaos Warp, but it is not trying to. I don't think it can really control the game like the player or like this person wants to without making substantial changes to like really make it focused on control.
It can control the game, but the problem is like you end up not being able to control the game and advance your own strategy. That's like always the challenge with more control strategies. It's like you can hold the mana every time to counterspell people, but if you counterspell someone instead of ramping, eventually that player you counterspell is probably going to win the game because like you'll run out of cards just one for one counterspelling people, and the people who are getting ahead on mana ramp eventually they'll just out resource you. So it's better just to focus on the removal and the control elements that are good for cascading into like Beast Within, and otherwise just go hard into the Wanderer. Yeah, reverse the polarity I would get rid of too.
I kept that one in that I really like the creatures can't be blocked this turn line. And so, yes, sometimes you can counter something, but really it's like, oh, all creatures can't be blocked, and just alpha striking people seems pretty rad.
That's
Especially if you
fair.
Maelstrom Wanderer into it.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
I might get rid of the Murmuring Mystic in that, like, while it is, or maybe it's Murmuring Mystic and Nimbus of Frost to me are a little bit lower powered for their mana cost. Like I really like Third Path Iconoclast and Young Pyromancer because they come in at 2 drops, costing 4 to start making tokens, or 4 to have this thing that starts tapping things down.
I feel like this deck
Seems
is there's not a lot of these token generation effects, and so we
yeah.
need as many as we can.
Okay.
And also, I think we're going to be ramping hard, and mana is not exactly the primary concern. Nimbus of Frost, the
It
tap
doesn't
down
make
effect
creatures.
feels strong, but you're right, it doesn't. So, this is more of a control element card. So, I think I can agree to dropping that because it's. Let's focus on our token generation. Okay.
Similarly, like maybe getting rid of Rashmi Eternity Crafter, which sort of gives your first spell each turn sort of cascade. It's really good. Uh, Maybe keeping Rashmi in. Maybe a better thing is like the Pink Horror, which doesn't create tokens really.
Oh, but that first triggered ability is strong.
It is,
I'd rather
yes.
get rid of Rashmi because we already have the Wanderer. I don't know. Let's look at some other stuff. Like, we did talk about Sphinx Bone Wand.
Oh yes, yeah. I don't think that's what this deck wants to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, I get the idea behind it of putting charge counters on it and using it to deal a bunch of damage. It is a very unique effect, but
To me, the deck reads like it wants to make a lot of creature tokens because Maelstrom Wanderer gives them all haste. So you play Maelstrom Wanderer, you get a couple instants or sorceries off the top of your deck, and then you get a bunch of tokens, and then you're just attacking.
yeah, I think focusing sometimes we have to choose, a more narrow strategy, and I think focusing the magecraft stuff around the the token generation is better than focusing on this kind of damage dealing stuff.
Yeah, which is why
This might,
I kind of was pitching cutting the Pink Horror.
yeah, maybe Pink Horror. Oh, and they make those tokens too.
And Bothersome Quasit, although I like it. I like that card a lot.
Yeah, I like this card. This is fun. This is a good control card for this deck, actually. There's another card. I would actually run Rite of Replication in this deck.
Does this deck need Stormkiln Artist?
Well, let's talk about. So, Rite of Replication, this is a good token generation card, and the cool thing about it is if you cascade into it and you have 5 mana, you can still kick it. And this will allow us to, like, get 5 copies of some of these creatures that we want.
5 copies of the Maelstrom Wanderer is pretty good.
Well, we can't do that because that would that.
Well, you'd only keep one.
Well, yeah, but it's not ETB; it's on cast.
Oh, right.
You're
Sorry.
confusing Cascade with the new Cascade,
Yeah. What
the
is it
Dino
called?
Cascade thing.
Yeah.
But see, it's like for some of these things, whereas, yeah, I mean, like the Murmuring Mystic. If we had 5 Murmuring Mystics out, That's pretty good.
A lot of the token generators are legendary, though, so I don't actually know if Rite of Replication is always going to be a good, like, always going to be valid.
Yeah, but I mean, it can hit opponent stuff too, and
Mm.
sometimes you just hit an opponent's sad robot or wood elves or something.
Uh,
Yeah, maybe we should drop the pink horror because
I'd be more inclined to cut the Stormkiln artist,
mm, it's pretty
which is
strong.
it is pretty strong, but the deck already we're already jamming so much instant and sorcery ramp into it that I don't know if we really need to be making treasure tokens.
Yeah, that's fair. We did add even more other ramps, so let's drop it.
I would be tempted to drop Niv Mizzet just because
Yeah,
it's just a really strong card.
it is so strong. If you don't cascade into it, it's probably gonna be hard to cast it in this deck. I think you're right about Niv Mizzet. Like, it is very strong, but
Well, what if we
from
keep it because it is strong and we get rid of things like I don't think Personal Tutor is that useful.
no, personal tutor is super useful because like you can. Well, I guess it depends on what source. Well, yeah, because like personal tutor, first cascade off Wanderer. If it's personal tutor, then the second one you put an extra turn spell on top,
I
and then
guess, but I feel like the more likely thing to happen is it's in your opening hand, and so you Personal Tutor for a Nature's Lore. Eh,
or you save it for later when you cast Wanderer. Like if you wait to have 9 mana with them.
I guess. It, yeah.
I mean, it's true it's only sorceries, but there's a lot of. You can get Seagate Restoration, extra turns. Yeah, I
Oh,
would keep it.
can wait? Can Maelstrom Wanderer hit that costs less? Oh, we should get rid of Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time. Those are both kind of non-bows with Maelstrom Wanderer. I think we should replace them with better draw. It's
So is
just I think it's
Octavia,
kind of
right?
yeah. But I guess do I guess are we going to be delving is the question. How often are we going to be delving?
Yeah, dig through time, 8 mana. Yeah, we're not exactly putting lots of stuff into our graveyard. And I actually think this deck's gonna have enough card draw.
I am not certain about the card draw. I might want to add more in, but I think those are kind of non-bows in terms of really leaning in. And maybe you're right. We should cut Octavia and just play cards that can consistently be cast off of Maelstrom Wonder so that there are no misses.
That's
Even
personally
if
how
they're
I like to play Wanderer. Is I like it when everything is below 8 mana, and that I always cascade into it. I mean, it's true that like, with Wanderer, like you still get the 2 free cascades. Like it just goes to the bottom of your library. But in my experience, it ends up being that like you have this sweet card you want to play, and it always ends up on the bottom of your library. Oh, now we're down to 99. I actually think we want more top deck manipulation if possible. I guess we already have Ponder, Preordain, Brainstorm.
I think the deck could run. I mean, so there are like some lower curve cards that I would consider running, like Goblin Electromancer and Goblin Archaeomancer, just
Mm-hmm.
for cost reduction. I'm not saying we should. I'm just like thinking like, okay, those are some things.
You know what we should run? We talked about these like damage things like Pink Horror. What's the Gutter Snipe is what we should run.
I mean, if we want to lean into the cast spell do damage strategy.
Yeah, I guess okay, that's true. If do we want to go harder into tokens? And if so, how we could do landfall tokens.
Let's see.
Like if we did Rampaging Balos, that would actually be really strong. It wouldn't be the most unique thing to do in Wanderer.
I still think the deck should probably run a bit more draw. It's the thing I'm concerned about.
I think it's going to be okay, honestly. There are a lot of generically good Wanderer cards, but trying to stick to instants and sorceries is a lot trickier.
I think adding a Cryptolith, right, or Enduring Vitality would make sense. Just because you're on the token strategy, so making all your tokens make mana is pretty good.
Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah.
Huge fan of those glimmers.
There's actually, I think, one more card worth running, which is Sanctum of Eternity, because there are going to be times we want to recast Wanderer, I think. That's my theory. I'm going to just cut a mountain.
Oh, no, I'd keep the mountain. I would actually cut Castle Garenbrig.
Yeah, but it works.
I don't
It
think
does
there's
work
any,
with
actually.
Wanderer.
It does work with Wanderer, but
Let's just try
I would
it.
rather be a base.
So, well, we have Spelljack in our opening hand, which is not really what we want. But we
This
have
is
a
a mulligan.
pawn. Oh, right, we don't have green. Ooh, but we have Ponder.
That's too greedy.
Okay, we'll mulligan. This is bad. We'll mulligan and go down to 6. So we'll put reverse the polarity on the bottom. Draw. Next turn, draw a Spire Garden into the north.
Probably need another forest here.
And then draw forest into cultivate. Do forest and island or something. Color fixing. And oh, yeah, so that's 5. And then next turn we draw.
So it'd be...
I would do training ground, and depending on the game state, I would do, let's see.
Yeah, it probably makes sense to run out the Rise of the Dragon Caller.
Yeah, I'd play this with the idea that we go to the next turn, we draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can play Temporal Manipulation. We take our next turn, we draw island. So we have 1 5/5 dragon. We
Wanderer, I think, is the play.
Yep. We cast Wanderer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So first cascade, Archmage of Runes. Second cascade, Turn Timber Symbiosis.
Which gets us another dragon, and then whatever creature is in the top 7. It's probably Veyron. Is very
It's
good.
the only. Oh, or Hullbreaker.
Well, okay.
Yeah, Veyron's more on theme, but Hullbreaker is good. So now we have 2 5/5 dragons. We got a 7/8.
And a 7/7 and a 3/6 that are all attacking this turn.
I should have kept track of what turn this is, but that's pretty strong.
I think
And
this
then,
turn 6.
Next turn we go. We still have these instants and sorceries to keep casting to give us more stuff. The nice thing too about having more ramp and wonder is even if we got board wiped, like say on that previous turn, we would just ramp more and then cast Wanderer again. So that was effective. That seemed like a deck that worked. This doesn't have opening hand ramp, which makes me concerned.
Yeah. I like the action though, in terms of like it gives you like turn 1, Catch a Time, turn 2, Young Pyromancer, turn 3. Hopefully you've drawn another land and you can Salundi Vision for something.
We do have the Pinnacle Monk, which is also a land.
Oh yeah.
But I think it enters tapped.
No, it can bolt in.
Okay. So yeah, actually, we can give that a try. Get your Triumph tapped. Exotic Orchard, Young Pyromancer, draw. Oh, we don't even have to bolt it in. So Snow-Covered Forest, Salundi Vision looks at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I would take Farseek.
And now we have a 1/1 token.
Mm-hmm. So we go to the next turn. We draw.
What would I do here?
I mean, I think it's just a Farseek. And then...
Yeah.
It's actually a little bit disappointing. Yeah, I think maybe mulliganing down for the ramp would have been good. Yeah, let's just do breeding pool. Alright, so... Yeah, I don't think it's worth... I guess we could cast Mulligan Recovery to get Farseek back. To get
Farseek, the land comes into play tapped.
Oh, right. Okay, so we'll just go next turn. Draw.
So, what? This is turn 5.
I mean, I would just Time Warp.
Time Warp.
And put a land in
and I
play.
would bolt in the turn or I would just the turn Timber Symbiosis tapped.
Yeah. Go to our next turn, draw.
So we could bolt in a land.
I think not keeping. I kind of feel like we should have mulligan for ramp.
Yeah, it does seem like the deck needs to have ramp in the opening hand.
I think the goal with Wanderer is always to ramp into Wanderer and then roll the dice. It's less concerned about setting up. So if we do a new game, it's like this one, I would get rid of. This one.
Have to get rid of this one.
Ooh. We'll go down to 6 again.
I think you should get rid of Spelljack.
Yeah,
Both
I don't
in
like
terms of this hand and also in general.
Yeah, I don't like how often it is a dead card.
I would Exotic Orchard in the hopes that we'll assume someone's playing red and you can third past Iconoclast.
Yeah.
Because then playing out Enduring Vitality, now like on turn 4, we have 5 mana available, or 6.
So next turn,
So
draw.
that's much better.
6 mana.
Probably.
I think we do Archmage Emeritus.
Is it Archmage or the Fractal Theorist? I guess the Archmage.
Yeah, I'd rather get the card draw. Next turn, draw.
Oh, bummer we didn't hit a land. I guess you could play the Salinity Vision tapped, or we could cultivate Salinity Vision in the same turn, drawing 2 cards, making 2 tokens.
Oh yeah, if we cast Cultivate. Wait, were you saying cast Salinity Vision or Cultivate?
Well, we'd cast Cultivate first.
Yeah. And then we
get 2 lands into play.
This one's tapped.
And then don't forget to draw a card from the Archmage.
Oh yeah, that should happen first.
From the Iconoclast.
Yeah, so now we got a token.
And now we would just Salinity Vision. Probably. Probably the Chaos Warp. Or the 3 visits. 3 visits. Because I think... no, we don't have enough mana to cast it.
I would take Seasons Past, because next turn we're going to cast Wanderer probably. And then we might want this in later.
And then don't forget to draw a card.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we still have 1 more mana left, so we could actually cast the Mystical Tutor.
Yeah, we don't want to, though. We want to cast it in response to Wanderer. So we'll go to our next turn and draw. And I think we have... Did we have
2
3
tokens?
2 tokens. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Or 3 tokens, you're right. Yeah, there should be 3 tokens.
So we cast Wanderer, and then in response, we cast Mystical Tutor. And then... This is actually probably game over.
Yeah,
if we actually made this happen, because like we get an extra turn spell on top.
and we're drawing cards for each spell we're casting and creating a 1/1
Oh
token.
right, so yeah, we drew and got token, and we time warp and draw, and then we cascade more. We'll do Rite of Replication into.
Another Archmage.
I don't know if we need more. I was thinking third path and just
Oh,
keep getting more tokens. Oh, and do we have? We made 2 more tokens. Let's see. We used 9 mana. We had 5 tokens, so we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, plus 5,
we still haven't
14.
played our land yet. I mean, at this point, I think the game's like
Yeah, this
kind
this is
of.
game over because we go to the next turn.
Well, and I think seeing how it actually plays, I think it actually makes sense to find room for cryptolith rights, because having a token generator that like is making tokens off of the Maelstrom Wanderer means that you can kind of keep on chaining into more cards.
Yeah, let's drop probably Spelljack because even though I've ran that before in Wanderer, it unfortunately when it's in your hand, it's kind of a dead card. And I mean, it makes a lot of sense to run, but yeah, we want to run Cryptolith, right?
Yeah, this deck really wants to maximize token generators. Oh, we should cut the. Oh, Rashmi's still in here? We should cut the Rashmi and add in a Poppet Stitcher.
Oh yeah, that's good. We need, and we have, where's Rashmi? Yeah, let's drop Rashmi. So yeah, going harder into the tokens there, it might need a little bit more green mana.
Yeah, like I would be
Actually,
tempted to cut Mystic Sanctuary. Is that the island one? That to me seems like it's overly optimistic.
yeah, we don't have enough islands for Mystic Sanctuary, so we'll drop that. I would actually run, I'd probably just run Yavimaya Growth. Does this person have a budget?
It was less than $100.
Okay, I didn't actually keep track of how many we added, so maybe.
We did not add many expensive cards. I think we are doing okay. If at all possible, I would actually try to jam in a little bit more ramp, where it's like maybe the Rite of Replication should come out. But I think
You
the
definitely
deck is moving towards
running more
where it
ramp
needs to
definitely
be.
interests me. We could do Migration Path or Explosive Vegetation, which are both basic ramp.
I think Beanstalk Giant is a pretty good piece of ramp,
Mm,
even though it's only one, but it is also a beefy creature.
yeah, I actually support that. I do really think Niv Mizzet should come out because it's hard to cast.
Yeah.
And I think we are, like, we weren't running out of cards or anything.
Oh, this deck should also run Emergent Sequence, which is another 2 mana ramp.
Yeah. Now I like
Emergent.
Emergent. Now I like where you're going. Now you understand how Wanderer works. You just want to ramp as hard as you can into Wanderer. It feels like it's working.
Yeah. This is all kind of like the little bit more.
Cool. Well, if you made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for watching. And if this was your deck, I hope it was helpful.